currently going to be talking about a variety of different things on the Tech Talk. It's come and released really because of high demand in the community to be covering a lot of the trendy new tech that's being released by the major corporations out there, namely Apple, Google, Samsung, and the similar competitors in the same market. So we're going to be going straight into this one. Tonight's Tech Talk program is going to be reviewing the Moto 360. So like I said, the Moto 360 is a wearable piece of technology. It's a smartwatch, technically speaking. It's a watch that tells you the time, but it does a variety of different other things that your regular wristwatch probably doesn't do. So, again, you're listening to Tech Talk on Middle Path Radio. The number that you want to contact us on is 07477 080 248. That's 07477 080 248. We'd love to hear from you. Get in touch with us on that number. Drop us a text or send us a WhatsApp message or a Telegram message. We are following all of those accounts. Don't forget to follow us at Middle Path Radio on Twitter. Mr. Producer, what are we doing? What is this? Tell us a little bit more about this Tech Talk program.
I was actually going to ask you the same thing, really. I mean, what kind of tech show is this? I mean, there's so many tech shows out there. I mean, you got brand names out there that are kind of cashing in on these tech shows. I mean, what is it about us that is going to be different from all the rest of them?
I suppose a lot of people may get, maybe misunderstanding or being misled into thinking that this is a general tech program where we could be discussing, say, for example, the landing on was it a comet or a meteor recently?
It was a comet recently, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to be talking about that kind of tech, science tech. We're talking more specifically about a particular field of tech, which is more mobile technology. That includes things like your smartphone, your wearable technology, which is going to be the focus for tonight's program, by the way, and other things like your tablets, your iPads, your Android devices, and other, tech like your Windows Mobile and BlackBerry devices as well.
This is a Tech Talk show.
That's right.
So, there's the biggest question on everybody's mind. Will we be hosting the biggest fight it's there, but it's on everybody's tongue? But dare they say it? Will we be hosting that very battle on this show?
Are you referring to the big fight
Yes, I am.
between...
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
You're talking about the...
I am indeed.
Go on, tell us what this big fight is.
In the blue corner, we have...
Samsung? No.
Its original colour is green.
Okay.
With a bite taken out of it.
Okay.
And we have another green in the red corner, which looks like a robot.
Okay, so you're talking about Apple and Google's Android, basically. Yeah? Apple's iOS and Google's Android. Definitely, this is something that splits opinion right down the center.
It splits families. It splits brotherhood. It splits everything. It can split a nut in half.
Yeah, definitely. I've been involved in a few of them kind of discussions. Let's say it definitely gets very lively. Some people take it to heart and they get very passionate about this subject. I mean, I don't know what it is about these two operating systems that really does it for people in general. I know people I don't normally find getting very fired up about this, but I mean, or other areas like, say, for example, current affairs. But when it comes to talking about their iPhone, as an example, they do take things quite personally, and they're ready to hold the flag of Apple and defend their purchase. And the same goes the other way around. For some, people in the camp on Android, we find the exact same thing happening. Or where, often people just say Samsung when they actually mean Android. So fanboyism, we will be talking a little bit about fanboyism for sure, but tonight we're going to really focus on wearable tech, and in particular we're going to be speaking about Moto 360. The number is 07477 080 248. That's 07477 080 248. You are listening to the Tech Talk program on Middle Path Radio. A little bit about the Tech Talk program, by the way. Tech Talk is brought to you by Celltech, who've got their own YouTube channel. We'll be uploading the review, a video review of the Moto 360 for everybody on Celtech on their own YouTube channel. We'll probably have this, will be also cross uploading to Middle Path Radio's YouTube channel as well. So we'll be doing a lot of things here on tech related. So let's talk tech. Mr. Producer, what do you make? I mean, let's go straight into the design of the Moto 360. Those of you just tuning in, Moto 360 is your, latest, cutting edge smartwatch. Okay, that's a watch that tells you the time, but it's electronic and it gives you a lot more than just the time. What do you make of this just on the design level?
Okay, do you know what the thing is? Yeah, I don't wear a watch. Any day of the week. I mean, I rely on the time on my phone.
And I have to admit, I put my hands up now as well. I do not wear a watch.
No, I just can't. It's one of those things. And to have a gadget on your watch, on your wrist like that, for me, it would probably take some kind of getting used to. And I've got. I mean, if I was to wear a watch, I've got really specific kind of specifications I would want in my watch. And I'm really picky about this.
Okay.
So it's got to be good. I mean, it's got to be something me worthwhile having
Fantastic.
a weight on my wrist
Sure.
throughout the whole day.
Okay, so that's actually a very good response, to be honest with you. That's the kind of level of discussion that we're going to have on Tech Talk, because it's not supposed to be very geeky, very nerdy. If you came and tuned in for that, I'm sorry to disappoint you guys. Stay tuned, because there's still going to be some very valuable information and discussion taking place. But we're going to be looking at tech, mobile tech in general, from more of a consumer point of view, from an everyman's point of view. Yes, there will be some, let's say, technical semantics being thrown here and there, just because, we simply won't be able to avoid it. But yeah, we're going to be talking from a very down-to-earth level here. And as Mr. Producer is saying, I totally agree with him, to be honest with you. I don't wear a watch. I've got 3 watches at home, regular watches, from the very expensive to the medium priced ones to a watch that I actually particularly like the look of, which is just a £30 or £40 watch. Okay. Again, I don't wear them. That's the truth. I actually don't wear them, although I like the look of all 3, I'll be honest with you, especially the most expensive one. Especially after looking at smartwatches and then returning my gaze back onto the regular watches and the expensive one. I mean, the expensive watches just look like a work of art, to be honest with you, when you compare them to smartwatches. So you're saying you wouldn't wear them, unless it's very good.
Like I said, I've got a certain criteria that I need to have in place before I can wear a watch. Firstly, it's got to be big. I don't like these skinny little things that look like bangles.
Okay, good.
So
Same here.
I need something a bit more manly, a bit more kind of beef in it, kind of element.
Sure,
to
sure.
It. So the Moto 360, I mean, but look, I can see it right now just across the room. It looks pretty chunky. I mean, if it has the right belt, because if it has the right belt on it, and I understand with the 360 you can have interchangeable belts.
That's correct.
On it as well.
Yes, you can.
With the right on it, I mean, I can see myself actually wearing it.
I mean, I have the Moto 360, of course. We're not doing a review without the device. Don't get us wrong now. I've got it right here in front of me. I just took it off my wrist so that we could, do a 360, excuse the pun, of the device in front of us while we describe the design and the build quality of it. I don't know if you can hear any of that. That's the buckle making some sound right there in my hand. I don't think you can pick up any of the sounds there. Yes, I have actually changed the strap that shipped with the device. I've got it changed. You'll be surprised to know I've put a metal steel watch strap on it. And I just got that off of Amazon, by the way, for a very affordable price of about £7 to £8. I think it was £7 to be exact.
Are you getting paid?
Am I getting paid?
By Amazon.
For what?
For mentioning
them. Well, I'll bill them later. But at the moment, they're not giving us a cent of anything. So, I mean, surely you can get it off of eBay, and you can get them from your local watch store as well. Amazon's not the only place where you can pick up these watch straps. Yeah, you don't have to get a steel one. You can get another leather one. Or you can get a what do you call them? There's another name for the plastic ones.
Silicone ones.
Silicone, that's the name they're using.
Silicone.
I just call it plastic. So yeah, the silicone ones. Again, it just has to meet a particular criteria, which is just a size, and you're good to go. You can definitely put one in there.
Okay, that's the exterior. I mean, let's get into some gritty
I ain't
details.
finished with the exterior. This phone. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. This smartwatch, right? Sorry, Mr. Producer. This smartwatch is all about the exterior design.
It's got the slickness.
This is a very attractive looking device. Let's say it is
Well, I mean,
an example of high workmanship
I mean,
here.
just looking at it, I mean, I can see. I mean, there has been previous wearable tech where you have the Pebble, and you did have the one that Galaxy brought out.
Samsung got out. They call it Gear,
Gear
Gear
1,
1, Gear 2, then the Gear Live, Gear
Yeah.
Neo.
So, I
They've
mean-
done about 4
I mean,
iterations.
compared to all of those put together side by side, I mean, if there is one that stands out from the crowd when it comes to slickness, when it does, when you look at it, and it's got that beefy kind of look, like it's going to do some damage.
Definitely.
You know that the Moto 360 will come out and just do that.
Is the lead of the pack for sure. I mean, you cannot put this down. A lot of people, when they look at this watch, they think it's just a watch because that's how it looks. It's as good looking as your regular steel watch. So it's got a stainless steel rim and body to the main watch head or face, if you want to call it. And it's got a glass front, as all watches do, obviously. And it's a very good looking, shiny, reflective metal finish on this watch. And you're absolutely right. I just want to point out that when you say chunky and beefy, a lot of people might not like large size, oversized watches. There are some really oversized. Say, for example, my brother, he wears some really giant watches. I know it's kind of the in thing. I don't go for something that big. Again, this is actually smaller than a lot of those watches. This Moto 360 is also thinner than a lot of those watches that I've seen.
I've seen a lot of those watches up in the West End in the shops, and they've got they look humongous. I mean,
Yeah.
the face of it is, you might as well carry like a wall clock on your
When
wrist.
you said thin, I mean, I've got one that's thinner than this. And yeah, we're talking for a masculine look. It doesn't go with those thin designs. This, on the other hand, is, I reckon, a very good balance between those oversized watches out there that are like, really, really expensive, and the very thin ones that can look a little bit feminine at times. So this is a really brilliant balance between those. It's got a lovely little push button on the side of the bezel there, and it's again cut out from some sort of metal finish there. It's got a little radial brush metal effect that actually has a texture to it that if you touch. And there's again another wider metal rim, which is kind of like this goldish. It's got a gold finish to it. So it's a very intricate piece of work that Motorola's done here.
I mean, that's just the surface kind of, so the exterior
Yeah.
look of it. I mean, I understand that the actual face, where you can see the time, the notification,
Yeah.
that itself is customizable as well, where you can change.
Yeah, definitely.
To
I just
enhance
want to
the
say, as you've brought up the question of the face, before we go on, the metal strap that I've put on there definitely enhances the look of this device. You will not get people looking at that and what is that computer doing on your wrist? You're not going to get people saying, "Oh, you got a smartwatch? Are you and they go away thinking you're some sort of geek or a nerd who's got no fashion sense. So I mean, we're not trying to get too vain here, but the Moto 360, hands down, is the best looking. I think unanimously reported in reviews all across the internet that the Moto 360 is hands down the best looking smartwatch on the market right now, because it resembles existing good designs in wristwatches that we've seen for decades and decades. So to come back to your question about the watch faces, faces is plural because you can actually change the face of the watch, not physically, because it's a digital display, but you're getting a variety of different colors that will change the background of the actual watch face, the hands that tell you the time, from the pointers that mark the hour and the minutes, the second hand, you can change practically everything. There's so many themes and skins for this thing right here in my hand. On the Play Store, that's Android's app store, right? On the Play Store, it's you can have a lot of fun really changing those. They're all custom made for you, so you don't have to actually go ahead and decide each item and element of the design by yourself. These are already made on the Play Store for you. You just download them. Yes, just like apps, a few of them you have to pay for, okay, and a lot of them are very darn good. I have to be honest. It has this surreal look to it when the watch face lights up and there's these analog hands and time indicators there. It just gives the round face of the Moto 360 a very premium look to it. And this, again, like I said, it's got this very surreal kind of effect because we're so used to looking through a sheet of glass, often curved glass, and you can see deeper in the set itself, the back panel where the hands are sitting. But this, you've got like black watch faces, you've got classic Roman numerals with a white background.
I heard there's a retrograde look as well.
There's a retro look. There's a military look. I'm looking at so many. Then you've got your regular digital, numbers that you can put on there to use as a digital watch. There's so many that you can play with, and there are some very creative designs here. I mean, they're telling you time in ways that I've not read time before. So
okay, I mean, we all sing praises of this new smartwatch. But I have a little quibble.
Go on. What's your
question?
It
is a quibble about it. And some people say it's a minor quibble. Some people say it's a major quibble. Some people say it's a deciding factor whether they want to spend.
It's a deal breaker.
It's a deal breaker, and that is a very noticeable bezel at the bottom of this circular screen.
Indeed. Well pointed out, I have to say, Mr. Producer. You have pointed something noticeable, I must say. But I'll be honest with you. I've had this now for roughly a month. Or has it been 3 weeks? I'm not exactly sure. As soon as it became available in the UK, I went ahead and ordered it. And
knowing that he had a bezel at the bottom of the screen.
I knew about the bezel on the bottom.
And that wasn't a deal breaker for you?
Not at all. Not in the slightest. I felt it may do. Once I get it, I'll know. And I have to be honest with you. I was absolutely in no shadow of doubt that it has zero impact on how attractive this device is.
Prior to you buying this, you did your research and you
absolutely,
you saw that and you knew that there was knowing fully well that there was a bezel there. You still went ahead and you purchased it.
When you say bezel, I mean what you're looking at is when the screen is turned off, it's a fully circular display, which is a black piece of glass when it's turned off. When it turns on, there's a flat tire kind of effect, i.e. the full circle of the watch face is still circular, but right at the bottom it appears as though there's been a little straight line cut across from left to right. Very right at the bottom, and that stays black throughout. So whether you have a coloured watch face or a white watch face, that will stay black.
What is the purpose of that?
It's not there for any artistic
design
purpose.
Okay.
It's there genuinely for housing the ambient light sensors, a couple of other readers on there. So there is some hardware in there. It has a purpose.
It has a reason for it to be there.
There's a practical reason as to why
you can't
it's
get
been
away
put
by
there.
hiding it.
Yeah, I mean, what they could have done, and Motorola has actually spoken about this. They have said the only other way to hide these internals, these pieces of these sensors, as is what they are. The only way to hide them anywhere else is to have made the circular bezel, this metallic steel bezel that we've got around the glass, which is very thin at this moment in time, and it makes the watch look really nice. The only way to have hidden those sensors would to have made that steel bezel a little bit thicker, wider, and that would have, I think that would have made the device look a lot uglier than the way how good it looks right now. Okay, so what they've done, they made a compromise decision. I think they had to make a call on that. And what they've done is they've compromised a little bit of the full circle watch face and designated that bottom section there just for the sensors. They could have fitted it into the circular bezel, the metal steel part all the way around the glass face. But the metal as it stands is too thin to house that. They would have had to widen the steel look. There is another watch out there which has this same circular design. Okay, Well, let's not go into that. You're looking at something. Go on.
No,
tell me.
I was just going to say, I mean, for Motorola to say that, I'm just trying to find something else where they're saying that if the bezel was to go around the circular, the circumference of the phone, it'd make the phone ugly. Yeah, I think they're pretty right in saying that. I think they've nailed it on the head, because there are other phones out there, which we will go into later on.
Yep.
There are other phones that have actually done that, and it don't look like a phone no more. It
doesn't look like a clean watch.
It just
no
looks
more.
like one of those watches you would get in the pound stores where you just put in water and squirt out of it.
That is the only reason why I've got the Moto 360. Just like you, I don't wear a smartwatch. It better look good if I'm as a watch on its own. Forget the smart features of it. It better just look good as a watch that tells me the time on its own. And this is the only watch at the moment that does give you that premium, look at this timepiece, effect. So yes, there is this little bezel at the bottom. It's a cutout from the circular glass of the display. It is always black, and it houses the sensors that will dim the display and brighten up the display according to how much light is the watch is exposed to. So definitely, it's there for a purpose. For me, it has absolutely zero impact in the way it affects the design. It does not affect the design.
I suppose it's the same thing as people when the Galaxy Note 4 came out, and when the Galaxy Note 2 originally came out, and then the Note 4. Everybody that used it, they thought, how the hell are we going to use this phablet on our, put next to our face to get used to it?
Yeah.
And now it's come to this extent where people want something more bigger. You just get used to it. Am I right in saying that? It's one of those things where you don't even notice it.
I'll be straight honest with you. I'll be more frank than that and say there was no getting used to this. I was already straight away. I was already used to it.
You clicked it straight away.
Yeah, it didn't affect me in any shape or form. There was no adjustment for me to make.
The Moto 360 and you was like a marriage made in
Maybe that's taking it too far, but but what I'm trying to say is I didn't have to. It didn't occur to me at all. Oh, what is this thing at the bottom of the display? Like you said, I always knew about it before I went in to buy this device, this smartwatch, and as you said, as soon as I put it on my wrist, I was mesmerized by everything else. The Moto 360 have done such a good job with everything else in terms of the design. I'll come on to the other parts. There are some weaknesses. Don't get me wrong. There are one or two big weaknesses. Okay, I will come on to them. So don't think this is some sort of fanboy rant at all. We will be frank and very candid about some of those weaknesses.
I was actually going to say. I mean, we're all singing praises of the Moto 360.
I'm just talking about the design because that's the segment that we're on right now.
I think we need to pitch it up against something to kind of get an
in terms of design.
I think in every aspect. I mean, if we're going to talk about design, we're going to have a lot of people out there.
All right. The way I was going to do it, Mr. Producer, was actually to bring in the other alternatives to the Moto 360 at the end of the segment. But since you have brought it up, go ahead. Go on.
I think
what do you want to compare it with right now?
I think what needs to happen is if we're going to, I mean, we can't just say that the Moto 360 is all that. I think what we need to do, although we don't even have the device, I mean, if there's any companies out there that are willing to lend us or borrow us any other smartphones for us to review, we're more than happy to take it.
Smartwatches, Mr. Producer. Yeah.
And review it. But I think we need to pitch you up with the Apple Watch.
The Apple Watch or the iWatch?
I think the official name is Apple Watch.
The Apple Watch. So it's not. It's iPhone, iPad, iPod.
I get what you're getting.
iMac.
It's the confusion.
And then Apple Watch.
It's called the Apple Watch. And
fantastic.
I think a lot
good work, Tim.
A lot of eye slaves out there that would want to. They would want.
What are you saying?
Oh, sorry, did I slip out there? Was it that blatant?
You need to tone it down a little bit, Mr. Producer.
So I think we need. I mean, I'm just thinking.
There are fanboys in every quarter. You know, we're very clear.
And there are fandroids everywhere. There are fandroids here as well.
Yeah, fandroids, lagdroids. Yes. There's all sorts of names for droid heads.
The Apple Watch, I mean, if you look at it from the surface, I mean, anybody would say, do you know what? That's a rival to the Moto 360.
Are you serious?
They would say that.
They would say just purely on design. Let's look. I appreciate design, and I've always said, from the get go, that the iPhone 4, 4S, iPhone 5, 5S, the iPads, and I own a couple of them, by the way. I've got an I get to play a lot around with a few Apple devices. I've got an iPad Mini, for example. I've got an iPhone 6 Plus, which we will review also on this show in subsequent weeks. So the design of these devices are great, but I have to be honest with you, just like I have been with the Apple devices, when they've done it right, I've said, wow, that is some craftsmanship, that is some brilliant, design work by Apple. And they have been known for that, but I think they've dropped the ball when it comes to the Apple Watch. I genuinely feel they dropped the ball big time when it comes to that. It is not up to the standard of what Apple designs. When you compare it with the iPod or the iPhone or the iPad, and then you compare it with even the Moto 360. Even, why do I say that? I genuinely think that I shouldn't say even.
The 360 has a circular face. It has a circular body. That may not be to everybody's taste. At least with the Apple Watch, iPhone, iWatch, whatever it is, it's got this rectangular shape, a shape that everybody's accustomed to when it comes to a watch.
Well, let's be, again, I'm going to be candid here. Just on the design element, the Apple Watch isn't really square because it's rounded in all
corners,
from in the corners and the sides as well. Everything's kind of rounded, so it's not really a square. But yeah, generally the watch face is kind of squarish. Okay, and if you remember, most watches generally, the ones that historically they've been round. Even when watches weren't worn on your wrist, when you took them out of your pocket on a chain, they tended to be round. Okay, even when you look at your clock, generally speaking, most clocks on your wall are round shaped. I know nowadays, even I've got a clock at home, it's not round, it's square. So different strokes for different folks. I get that, but there's no denying that the Moto 360 circular design with the steel rim is a more classic, that's the real word here, is a more classic, more conventional design that fits with existing timepieces, I will refer to them as that, on the market right now.
If you're going to go with old school fashion or
it's not old school, this is
when it comes to a round circular face,
I've got 3 watches at home. 2 of the 3 watches are actually circular, and both of them are more expensive than the square one that I've got at home.
Well, the Apple Watch, it's got something.
Let's just say it like this, yeah. The Moto 360 looks like the Armani watch that I have at home.
Well,
because I hear a lot of I fans out there, and they often interrupt me and say, "No, mate, look, my iPhone's like the Bentley and Rolls Royce of the smartphone world." So I've just deliberately dropped that particular detail on
with the Apple Watch. It's got a feature, a external feature that the 360 doesn't have, and that is a little jog dial on the side of the. You're shrugging your shoulders away. It has a jog dial on the side of the phone.
What is that
every
thing?
Phone has.
What is that thing?
It's a jog dial.
Seriously, it's supposed to be a smartwatch, and where is this jog dial? It's not even located where all watches generally have.
It's conveniently placed on the upper side,
right hand side of the square body, squarish, rounded square body of the Apple Watch. It's true. I think it's placed in the wrong place. I also think it's not great for people who wear watches who may be left-handed, for example. It is not great because that you do have to use it for on the Apple Watch to go through to select apps and to kind of navigate through the OS on the Apple Watch. You can use touchscreen on them, so you can probably ignore it.
Both watches are touchscreen.
Both watches are touchscreen, and like I said, the Android Wear operating system on the Moto 360 doesn't require any hardware buttons. So it doesn't need a home button, doesn't need that little jog dial. It has got a button on the right hand side, like I said, just like you would find in regular watches. It's a very nice precision cut button. It is used to wake up the screen. You can wake the screen up just by lifting your arm, by the way, without pressing any buttons or touching the screen. You could tap on the screen itself and it will wake up. All right, but it's just there to make it more consistent in terms of design with the existing conventional classic timepieces that we all know and love. With Apple's one, I think it's a badly implemented feature there. It's great that it does have some functionality. You can use it. Again, it's not placed in the right place. It's off center, and if you want everybody to use it, for toggling between or through different apps and selecting apps and stuff like that, pressing enter. I've seen some people use it for that. I think it's not well implemented, and it looks a little bit out of place. We're talking again, we're still on design here, guys. And why is design? You might be thinking, you guys are so vain. It's all about design. Mr. Producer, you said you had such tight criteria about this and that. Let's be 100% clear about this. I don't normally put so much on design. I don't put so much thought onto design. Yes, I do think about it. Yes, it does matter. When it comes to a smartphone, I don't think too hard about design. I do know it matters. That's why I've got this Sony Xperia Z3, okay, a full glass and metal smartphone. But when it comes to a watch, the watch has been, I don't know, historically something that you wear sometimes just for its look, just because of the way it complements your cufflinks, or the whole dress sense that you have of that day, whether you're going to work or
make it look good.
It's just the icing on the cake. That's what some of these special, some of these expensive timepieces are about. That's what watches have been. They've been a fashionable item. They're not always just there for telling the time. I know some people who've worn an expensive watch which has its battery dead, but they've just worn it because it complements their whole
that actually
suit
leads
that they
us
wore.
should we actually, on that point, when it comes to battery dead, shall we kind of move on to the technical, the actual nitty gritty of the phones?
Yes, I do, but I just want to make that final point that design is a more important feature when it comes to a watch than it is on a smartphone. Smartphone sits in your pocket the whole time until you take it out and use it. And generally speaking, phones haven't been something that you use as a fashion statement. Not necessarily until the Apple devices came along. I'll give them that much. They made smartwatches look good, but that wouldn't feature as top priority on my list when I'm looking for a very good smartphone. When it comes to the watches, you absolutely have to factor in, how does this thing look on my wrist, because it's wearable tech, and wearable tech's got to look good. All right, so moving on. As you asked about the battery, I think it's a good time to kind of rattle off some of the specs of this device. Like we said, it's from a consumer point of view, so we're not going to get very technical about it, but we do have to give our listeners some of these details. So there's a microchip that is running the operating system inside the Moto 360. The Moto 360 has actually got one of the older microchips in there. It's been criticized a little bit, actually. So here come a few of the negatives. All right, this this chip could have been a more newer, later model, like one of the Snapdragons that are currently running on some of the Samsung devices, the Asus ZenWatch, included as the LG G Watch R. A lot of them have got the more newer processors in there. Okay, so it's got the Texas Instrument OMAP 3 chipset. The display, for example, is a 320 by 290 LCD IPS. I think it's an OLED as well. It's a LED display. OLED display. The memory in there, it's only got 4 gigabytes of RAM. Remember, this is a smartwatch. ROM, internal memory. That's 4 gigabytes of storage space. Okay,
it's not RAM.
It's not RAM. I do apologize for that. But remember, it's not a phone. It's not something that you're using as a storage device. It's just for installing little apps for the actual watch itself. 4 gigabyte is sufficient, I'd say. And considering the size that these things have to be packed into, it's okay. It's acceptable. It has a half a gig of RAM. That's 512 megabytes of RAM. That's for memory. Again, let's compare with phones. Again, phones are now getting 3 gigs of RAM. I think the Note 3, the Note 4, the Xperia Z3, the OnePlus One. A variety of different smartphones have now got 3 gigs of RAM. But then again, we're not really comparing apples to apples here. We're kind of comparing apples to oranges in this respect. So it's not a fair comparison. The battery. It's a 320 milliamp hour battery. That must sound like a big number, 320 milliamp hour. But if you know anything about your phone batteries, your phones actually house nowadays a 3,000 milliamp hour battery. 3,000.
So it's not a very big battery.
It's a very small battery. Having said that, though, its competitors, say for example the Gear Live, which is the Android version of a smartwatch from Samsung, because Samsung does its own Tizen version. That's going to confuse a lot of people. We'll come talk about that another day. But yeah, the Gear Live, for example, has got a bigger battery. The LG G Watch R has got a bigger battery. And whether they've got a bigger battery in terms of 320, like I heard the LG G Watch R has got a 420 milliamp hour battery in there. And the reports of the battery life usage is quite good. They're getting 3 to 4 days of battery use. If you're going to compare, now, our listeners, guys, if you're going to compare these smartwatches in terms of battery life to your regular watch, forget about it. Again, you're not comparing apples to apples because they are not the same thing anymore. The battery life on these smartwatches are going to be like your phone. However, having said that, the other smartwatches have got better battery life than the Moto 360. I have been disappointed, but despite saying that, you will be charging it maybe at the end of the day when you go to bed. It does have enough battery life for you to.
I was just going to say. I mean, you've had it for almost a month now. I mean,
yeah.
Are you charging it on a nightly basis at the moment?
Yeah. When I go to sleep, I put you on the charging dock. It's
you have to.
Yeah, you have to. Otherwise, you ain't gonna have no juice left in the morning to use it.
Okay. I mean, how long?
That is not nice. I'll tell you that right now. That is not something that I'm happy with. But I think the industry right now, that's exactly how all the smartwatches are. That's not a fair statement because I've just said that the other watches, like the LG G Watch R, the Asus Zen Watch, some of the Samsungs, they do last a little bit longer, a day or two longer.
Someone that's going to wear a Moto 360,
they need to be aware. They'll be charging it every night.
It's not aware. I mean, you take on that responsibility. You take on that you take that on the shoulders that you're going to have to charge it every night.
I'll tell you why. Why I would still not switch out this smartwatch for any other. Again, and it comes back to the design. This watch just looks that good. And that offsets every other negative weakness that this watch does actually come with as well, which one of them is battery life. It is not as good as its competitors, not by a huge margin, but it is not as good as its competitors. I'm not able to. You talked about the Apple Watch. We can't really compare it with the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch is not even released. It won't be released this year at all. It's going to be a release next year. Nobody really knows for sure. Some saying February, some saying spring in general, you know. So I'm not really going to count the Apple Watch. It was the kind of like Apple was trolling Motorola when they announced their Apple Watch. The same time when Motorola actually released this Moto 360 for sale, they kind of like deflected the consumer attention with their own announcement. Here, guys, look over here. We got an Apple Watch that we're releasing, and woo, check it out. Don't look at the Moto 360. Well, I think consumers are a lot more smarter than that. They do not. They know now that you cannot even get the Apple Watch, even if you wanted to pay for it. So the Apple Watch is not even available, so it's not fair to compare it with the Apple Watch. So the battery life, 320 milliamp hour is not good. The other smartwatches, they do have a bigger battery, also translating into longer battery life. The operating system, why is that important? Well, I'll tell you one thing, Mr. Producer. The reason why operating system is important is it runs Android. So the Moto 360 can only be used with Android devices. It can't be used on your iPhone. So if you iPhone guys and gals out there are looking to buy the Moto 360, you're out of luck because the Moto 360 is not compatible with any Apple device.
When you say compatible, I mean, obviously the watch is connected to the phone via Bluetooth, I'm assuming.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
So
Bluetooth 4.0 in regards to the Moto 360.
So the Bluetooth function on the iPhone will not recognize the Moto.
That's right, exactly. You see, the way you said it is, the iPhone won't recognize the Moto 360. It's true, but again, that is not all Apple's fault here. But then again, it's kind of a 50-50. I think Google wanted Android Wear to only work with Google devices or Google operating system like Android. So, the Moto 360, the Samsung Gear Live, the Neo, well, actually I can't say the Neo because that also doesn't. But anyway, the LG G Watch R, the Asus Zen Watch, and the other Sony, by the way, Sony Smartwatch 1, 2, 3, all of them, 2 and 3 only will be working very easily with all your Android devices, your Android tablets and so on and so forth. But the same goes for the Apple Watch. If you were to buy the Apple Watch next year, whenever it gets released, you will not be able to use your Android smartphone to pair with the Apple Watch.
Fandroids are out of luck.
Fandroids are out of luck.
But you know what? I don't think the Fandroids will be disappointed.
Because a lot of them have already got these watches
Even
already.
if they don't, I mean, even if they don't, I mean, they wouldn't be.
I think the Apple Watch hasn't got much to offer, to be honest with you. Let's talk a little bit more about the spec, and we can come back to the Apple Watch in a second. So yeah, it's got Bluetooth 4.0, which is good for low battery, high speed connection with your smartphone. It's got a 9-axis gyro, accelerometer, compass, pedometer, or I don't know how you pronounce that word to me. Let's leave it as pedometer, optical heart rate monitor. So it's got a heart rate reader sensor on it. It can tell you your heartbeat per minute. It's good for, there's a number of apps on Android Wear in general that to help you measure the number of steps that you're taking per day or per hour. You set it up as you like according to your workout or your targets per week or per month, however you like, basically. So it's got a something like a step counter. It's got your heart reader, and it's obviously got the accelerometer and compass built in. Yes, the Moto 360 does come in this silver, lovely silver steel version, but it also comes in a black steel version. Another thing I want to mention here is that the Moto 360 is dust and water resistant. It has a IP rating of 67, IP67, ingress protection it's called. So it's protected from dust, I believe, at the highest rating, a degree, okay, but water resistance is not at the highest, or waterproofness. It cannot be given the label of being waterproof. It is just water resistant. Okay.
Would that be splash proof?
Splash proof, yeah. You can just say it's splash proof, yeah. Spray proof or whatever you want to call it. I wouldn't recommend going swimming with it for sure. These things are very expensive. We will come to the price in just a second after we talk about what do these smartwatches actually do. You guys have been banging on about the design and you've been banging on about the specs and the battery and all of that nonsense. What is it that these watches actually do? Do you have any clue at all, Mr. Producer, as to what these smartwatches actually do?
Do they tell the time?
They tell you the time. You get no brownie points for that one. The clues in the name, they definitely tell you the time.
I think when it comes to smartwatches, I think the biggest key feature for me would be notifications. I mean, that's the bigger thing. I mean, I carry a Note
giant
3.
phone.
I carry a Note 3 and Note 4 is probably on the way. Maybe an Nexus 6.
I've got my conspiracy theory on this. I'm going to share with you in a bit. But you're talking about Android Wear smartwatches generally, a smartwatch full stop,
yes.
basically. You're right. Notifications are the main thing when it comes to these smartwatches.
I mean, I don't want to bring out a big mammoth phone at my jacket, at my pocket, especially when I'm in a busy place.
Check who's texted you since it got buzzed as it vibrated in your pocket or in your bag. You're absolutely right. A watch is always on your wrist. You just flick up your wrist and you can see who's texted you, who sent you a WhatsApp or Telegram message, or who's done a what should I say? Tweeted at you, retweeted your tweet, what the weather is. So it will give you all the notifications. If you have an Android device, you'll just pull down from the top of the screen and you can see all of these notifications in there. Who's sent you an email, everything like that. And now you can do that from just lifting your wrist. You can see all of those notifications. You can actually reply to texts depending on the app that you use. I use a third-party app and it works just fine. Same with Telegram. When I get Telegram messages, I can reply directly from there. No, you don't have a keyboard that you type on. I think there is a way to use a keyboard. I haven't gotten around to doing that yet because I think it's kind of counterintuitive. I use the built-in voice feature, which it does a sensible job. I wouldn't say it does a excellent job. It does a decent job, as you know, with voice detection and dictation in general. It's still not there yet. Whether you have Siri or Google now or Cortana if you're a Windows Phone guy. Yeah, you can still reply, some sentences. You can string a general full sentence and say, thanks, I'm coming home in about half an hour's time, so don't stay up for me, or something like that. What shall we get tonight? Shall we go to, I don't know, shall we go to this program, an event today? You know, those kinds of sentences are very easy for it to recognize, and it sends it away flawlessly. So it saves you from getting your phone out of your pocket every time to do that kind of thing. It can also tell you directions, which is another cool thing. You know, if you're using it as a sat nav, don't get me wrong, you won't get turn by turn, lovely TomTom style, graphics on there, but you will get your step by step instructions with the arrow showing you whether you want to go right, left, or at this point, or in this many feet or meters, you need to get off at this junction, and so on and so forth.
At this point, what I want to say is, for you to get these notifications and these turn-by-turn instructions, do you have any sound coming out from the phone? Or, I mean, how would you hear these notifications that come?
Excellent question. It vibrates. It doesn't have a speaker. Well, the Moto 360 definitely doesn't have a speaker. I'm not aware of other devices that actually have any audio output capability on the smartwatch. I don't think there is one. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. Okay, so just drop us a text to tell us, no, mate, you've definitely got it wrong. Such and such device does have a loudspeaker. This one doesn't. It has a vibration. I don't know what you call them. Vibrating coil inside, basically, which does work very well. I have to be honest. Oftentimes, I don't sometimes feel my phone vibrate because of too many layers of clothing or whatever. But when my wrist vibrates, I know I've got a vibration, a notification, and I quickly, pick it up. You can dismiss notifications if they're like, people that you want to ignore, or it's not a very important email. You can just quickly swipe away and it's gone, basically. And it also clears your phone's notification window that you pull down from the top. Okay, so that's a really cool feature. It doesn't have its own sound capability.
So if you were to use the turn-by-turn directions on the
it will just vibrate and it will show you a graphic with some text on it, basically.
And if you wanted to hear it, would there be any way to hear it?
I'll tell you one thing it does do.
The reason why I'm
not sure about the turn, but I haven't tested that myself.
The reason why I'm saying that is because this is just from practical experience.
Sure.
When I'm on the road, when I'm driving, and I usually use my phone as my navigation equipment, and I have that on my windshield, and obviously I can see what's going on.
Yeah.
When I have a phone call, I'm leaning over, I'm pressing it, answering it. It's on the Bluetooth speakers and everything.
Yeah.
I can see the conveniency of having a navigation on your wrist, because your hands are on the steering wheel.
Yeah.
It's a lot more safer than having something just lodged to the window.
Still won't recommend it, but you are right. It is more convenient to have all of those controls on your wrist.
If I was to use that as my navigation tool, where would the sound come from? Would I have to hook up to an external Bluetooth device?
Okay. Or I'll tell you one thing. I don't know if it's a roundabout way of answering your question. If you want to listen to soundtracks, you can actually download tracks onto your 4 gigabytes of space that you've got on the phone, and you can play those tracks by connecting a Bluetooth earphone to the smartwatch, to the Moto 360. And you can actually listen to audio tracks directly from your Moto 360. It has no relation with the phone in that regard. So it does have a way of transferring audio via Bluetooth. I'm not sure. It may or it may not, because I haven't tested it yet. It may work in the same way with a Bluetooth headset, basically. I'm not aware. I'm not sure. But like you said, the other function where you're getting a call, that will come up on your phone, and you can just swipe to the right or left depending on whether you want to pick up the call or not. You might be thinking, then I can hear the person on the phone on my watch. No. What it will do is it will answer the call on your phone, and if you're in the car like you described with it docked as a sat nav, and you don't want to bother always reaching over to swipe and to ignore or whatnot, you can just do that from your phone, your wrist, and it will put on the loudspeaker, and you can start talking to that person.
Because I haven't
on the phone.
I mean, it's only come to mind now that
really these smartwatches are nothing without their smartphone. They just tell you the time and maybe play some music.
Because I'm just thinking, if you have a watch Bluetoothed up to your smartphone, and most devices in cars, they hook up, a lot of car systems, car stereo, hands-free kit, they also hook up via Bluetooth as well. So in essence, you will be hooking up 2 Bluetooth devices if there's a function on your smartphone. I'm not aware of it on my phone. So you'll be initially hooking up 2 Bluetooth devices to your one smartphone.
And it does work. It's a good question, and I've done it, and this is exactly how I do on a daily basis. I've got a very old car. It doesn't have its own Bluetooth system, so I've bought this Sony or whatever, or you could get any other branded Bluetooth loudspeaker to put into your car and leave there. And yeah, I've got my phone tethered to that Bluetooth speaker and my smartwatch. So any calls that come up, I can see it vibrating on my wrist, and I can answer it from my wrist, and the speech will come out via my phone out through the Bluetooth loudspeaker that I've got in my car. So it works without any kind of stepping on each other's toes, as it were. So it just works just fine. It works just fine. I've actually used it, and it works just fine.
I only mentioned it because obviously these reviews,
there's no conflict with putting two devices to tethering them via Bluetooth to
the reason why I mentioned it because obviously these reviews that we're doing are for the average consumer.
That's correct.
Which we are, and these are the everyday goings that a normal consumer would go through, and these are the kind of teething issues that
these are excellent questions.
We aim to iron out and
we'd like to address the day-to-day kind of issues that you may face, and that's definitely one of the most common use case scenarios for smartwatches in a car is taking calls and speaking to people while you can't touch your phone. You're not allowed to. Most places, especially here in the UK, obviously, I know in many parts of in America, it's the same. You can't be speaking on your phone using the handset while driving. So this is a really good way of dealing with that problem. Again, I don't recommend using your smartwatch, even though it is easier. It's still a distraction while you're driving. It is not safe to do so. I've done it. I don't recommend it for sure. So yeah, you get to do a lot of things with these smartwatches, but is it enough? This brings us to the question of price. We've talked about design. We've talked about spec. And we've even mentioned that there's a battery deficit when it comes to the Moto 360. It has a nightly charge cycle. You do have to charge it every night. That's one of the main weaknesses of this smartwatch. Now let's talk about we talked about also what these smartwatches do for you. What is the advantage of having a smartwatch? We talked about how it transfers all your notifications from your phone. You don't have to fumble around for your phone in your pocket every time you get a little notification and you think, oh, it's just him or it's that group, or it's always giving me adverts, or it's an email spam message from whoever, from whatever corporation. You could have ignored that instead of putting your hand in your bag to get your phone out, or your pocket to get your phone out every time. Especially if you're like me, who doesn't use a phone case, and you're out and about walking, you don't want to always get your phone out when it could hit the concrete floor. Okay, so you just want to look at your smartwatch.
I've actually done that with my Note 3 when I first got it.
Yeah, so that can be a very painful experience.
Oh, yes, it was.
So if you have a smartwatch, you just pick up your wrist to your, as you would read the time, and you can just see, oh, it's just a spam email, dismiss, and you swipe it away. You want to check the weather. It will just ask, okay, Google, what's the weather like today? And it will give you a forecast for today. And if you swipe one more time, it will give you the week's forecast. And you can just ask any random question that you normally ask Google now. Like, for example, navigate to PFC from my location. And it will show you nearby, takeaways or whatever it is.
So it has its practical kind of element to it as well.
It does.
It kind of enhances your everyday.
It needs to be ironed out. It's not perfect.
It's not your solution to your world problems.
Yeah. It will not replace your smartphone. If you're thinking that this is...
Will it solve world wars?
Absolutely. Google is here to save the world from all the war that what kind of rubbish is that? Obviously,
no, I mean...
certainly not.
It's a device that's...
If people have got high expectations like that, then obviously they're going to be disappointed.
I don't want it.
Yeah.
No, but, I mean, the whole purpose of it is obviously it's not just a watch. It's something to enhance your daily, everyday thing that you would normally do on your phone, but you do it on a more practical level, more of a
I can't think of good examples like okay, Google, note to self: remember to take the milk at 4 p.m. or something like that, and it will record that for you, and it will give you a notification when it's time to remind you. You could just ask a random general knowledge question like who is the President of the United States of America, and it will tell you it's Barack Obama without any audio. It will just give you a card, as they like to call it.
Just on that
Google.
point, I mean, just to kind of deviate from, not deviate, kind of backtracking a little bit.
Go ahead.
Again, to the design element to it kind of falls into the same category.
Good question.
But if you were to talk to your watch, you're talking to your phone like, hi, okay, Google, take a note, please. I need to buy a pint of milk. And you're talking to your phone.
I think it looks more cool when you talk to your watch than when you're talking to your phone.
That would be like talking to your wrist, your watch, like the old Knight Rider movies.
That's right. And Inspector Gadget.
But I mean,
if you're into the geekery and the nerd coolness, then you'd love that.
Yeah. So I mean, if you're into that and you
but
dig
if you're
that,
kind of hipster, even nerds are quite hip these days.
People have just got used to slapping a phablet across their face when it comes to talking.
Yeah, and people have complained how initially they complained that it looked silly. I think it's easier to talk to your watch or your wrist than it is, because it kind of gives you that kind of, like, as you said, the Knight Rider, or the I'm the bodyguard to
Michael Hasselhoff look.
What's his name?
David Hasselhoff. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean Michael Knight is his on-screen name. So it gives you that kind of, like, I don't know, sci-fi, Star Trek kind of look to it. Or
Beam me up, Scotty. Beam me up, Scotty.
Or you could just get away with the kind of, I'm the bodyguard to some sort of celebrity or some sort of head of state, and I'm just tannoying to all my other entourage out there. It's easier to sell talking to your wrist than talking to a giant phone that you're looking at.
On your face.
Yeah. Or any phone for that matter. It was silly when you're like, hello, Siri, can you tell me a joke? I just found that absurd and hilarious,
it was a gimmick.
It was a gimmick. I mean, and it's funny talking to your phone as compared to talking to your watch.
Do you know what? I've just looked over to my phone, and where I've said, okay, Google, on the right, note, look what's come up on my phone. The note has actually come up.
So it's actually picked up your
it has.
your voice command, even though you were just speaking to me.
I mean, that's the kind of thing we're looking at. What happens when you...
It's not as sensitive. Your phone picked it up from the arm rest on your chair. Which is very good. Phones have better hardware. They've got the space to work with. It's not as sensitive. You will have to probably raise your wrist to your face a little bit, under your chin, and you can still talk to your watch. It does. If it's a quiet environment, it can pick up voice commands from just sitting on the table. But it's a wristwatch, so most of the time it will be on your wrist. So that brings us squarely to the last point of our review, which is the price. We are bang on the hour. End of our program. We will take the liberty to just wrap it up gently, but let's talk about the price. Moto 360 in the UK costs £200 sterling. That's right. Swallow that. That is a steep price.
That's actually quite steep.
Now, you can be a fanboy, you can love Moto 360 design as I do, but I will tell you straight to your face that it is overpriced. It should not cost £200 sterling. And Americans get it for cheaper. I think they just think we're so stupid. $200 in America, let's just change the dollar sign to pound, and then people will think, it's the same price. No, it's a lot more expensive in the UK than it is in the States.
In America, you can pick it up for about 150, 160 quid.
They're getting it for $200. Yeah, if you do direct, that's correct. Yeah, equivalent to the pound. That's right. Yeah, conversion. That's how much they are getting it for. It's a lot less. So £200, even £150.
How much is the Note Gear?
The Galaxy Gear. Again, 150, 125, some of them over £100. There is no smartwatch out there right now that is less than £100. And if you're going for even the cheap one, like a older generation, because Samsung's got some older generation, you're going to lose a lot of the functionality and the design. Especially Samsung refined the design. The initial one did not look good, especially the LG one as well, by the way. Also from Korea, a direct competitor to Samsung. Their first watch was the LG G Watch. And it looked ugly, like, to say the least, and that's being kind. It was a straight cut square, and it looked rubbish. And but they've improved that. And they've done a round one. Again, the round one does not look as nice as the Moto 360. The round one looks like one of those G watch. Have you seen the Casio
yes,
G watch? It looks more like one of those explorer type of watches. It does not look like a thing that you can wear nicely with your your suit or your shirt to work or something like that. The way the Moto 360 just fits in beautifully.
£200, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
I mean,
£200.
Is there any scope for that to go down?
This is where my conspiracy theory comes in.
Cool.
The scope for going down, forget it. I mean, if you want to buy the Moto 360 with the metal strap from Motorola, okay, then you're going to pay a lot more than £200, by about another £40 or £50 more just for that metal watch. I know they've released, I haven't checked up on the exact costing of that, but I know in the States they're calling the metal steel one $70 more expensive than the regular Moto 360 with the leather strap that it does come with. The leather straps are good, it's nice, but if you're like me, you're going to want to slap on a metal steel bracelet or watch strap to really complement that round brushed metal case for the actual watch head.
They could have actually parceled it as one package, if you really wanted
easily.
to.
So yeah, you can definitely
At
get
that price of £200.
Yeah, at that £200 easily. I mean, the parts do cost a little bit more because it's not a regular watch. It does have, like they said, a pedometer, step counter, a heart rate monitor, ambient sensor. It's got the OS. There's been R&D costs and stuff. So a lot of things, research and development, prices, factoring those things in, I still think it's too expensive.
Okay, at that price, £200, like I said, it's not.
I'll tell you why. Because you can live without these smartwatches. The question we have to finish with is: do you need a smartwatch or do you want a smartwatch? I'll be very honest with you. What do you think?
Well, just before I answer that, I mean, I would want to say is, I mean, if you do buy for £200 that phone, I mean,
that watch,
that watch. Sorry,
because some phones do cost £200, and they're pretty good.
I mean, most of the smartwatches that have come out, they've come in like a storm and they've gone out the same as a storm as well. I mean, they've had a life expectancy of about 6 months before something else come up. I'm trumped it, and then that's gone out the window. For you to invest £200, how long are we looking at before something comes up a little bit more better, a little bit more fancier, a little bit more thinner, everything with a bigger battery, better battery? Would that £200 be worth it for me?
It's a very good question.
Hold on to another couple
especially
of years?
From a consumer point of view. I think the very nature of the beast is, if you compare again from the smart phone industry, you will find that within a year, at least within a year, if not within 6 months, there's something better already available in the market from a competitor or from the same manufacturer.
Saying we should hold off?
No, there's no point. If you really want to get a smartwatch, notice I used the word once.
That actually leads me to your last question.
Yeah.
Where do you really need it?
No. Absolutely not. You do not need a smartwatch. I will tell you that right now. You do not need a smartwatch. It's great. It adds a little bit more convenience.
But is that convenience worth
some practicality? Yeah, it's not worth £200. I'll tell you that right now. It is not worth £200. You'll buy it thinking, what is the hoo-ha? I'll tell you right now, it's only the design. You're going to get it because it looks good. You're going to get it because you're really hip. Wow, check this out. I've got the cutting edge technology. Until Apple does it, basically, then everybody's going to start buying it. Because I know a lot of people who just buy Apple products because it's got the Apple logo in it. And they can say that, look, I've got the Apple Watch. And it's the same for the smartphone. People will get it because of the brand identity that they kind of identify with. So
at the moment, nobody is saying about the 360 right now that how have I lived my life without it?
No, nobody's saying that. Exactly.
People will only say that when the iWatch comes out.
When the Apple Watch comes out, the world will be spinning a little bit faster, as always, and they will be saying like, "Wow, look at this innovative invention." They will be saying, what a groundbreaking piece of technology that Apple has invented. Well, actually, no. There have been very compelling devices on the market right now from well-known brands. Like Motorola is not an unheard Chinese. Well, actually, now it is a Chinese brand, but it's been bought by Lenovo. Motorola is not an unheard of brand. It's a reputable brand. It's a trusted name. Okay, formerly American brand. Same with Samsung. They're Korean. Everybody's got something made by Samsung. Even your iPhones have got Samsung displays and chips in them. Okay, so don't be surprised. But yes, there will be a lot more media attention as soon as the Apple Watch hits the market. And I already know if this is what they're going to work with, the Apple Watch that they've debuted only a month or so ago, if they stick with that, then it is worse than the Moto 360 just in terms of design. But you will be hearing people going crazy and gaga over the Apple Watch. You don't need it. I'll tell you that now.
We're looking at 10 city in front of Apple stores.
You're going to have people camping out for 2 weeks, going homeless. Not because they want to empathize with the homeless people of the streets of London, but no, they just want to actually get a watch.
How much do you reckon? Sorry, just to kind of move
the Apple Watch.
Yeah, what do you reckon that's going to be?
I heard that it starts at around again the same $200 or $300 dollar.
Dollar.
Figure.
Okay.
Yeah, dollar. Because I don't know what the UK prices will be like until it's launched. But it can go up to $1,000 depending on if you go for the gold plating. Because Apple is providing a lot more options with their Apple Watch. A lot more wristbands. They've got a small one for the females and a larger one for the males. They've got like different coating, like gold plating and real gold, and I don't know, man. It's just.
It's one of those merchandising gimmicks.
Yeah, well, that brings me to my conspiracy theory, which is I'll give you my conspiracy theory in one liner. These companies, all of them, Apple, Google, whoever, Samsung, they've made their smartphones bigger so that they can introduce another money-making product called the smartwatch. All right, just like you've complained, Mr. Producer, that you can't be asked to fumble around for your giant mammoth Note 3, which is the same size as the iPhone 6 Plus. If any of you iFans are laughing at our producer for carrying a giant computer, you've got the same sized phone in your bag and pocket as well, guys. So yeah, they've made these phones bigger because I think they want us to buy another product. They've created another category of technology that we will pay and shell out for, make them even more rich.
To be honest, I don't think that's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah. That's how
a marketing strategy.
That's business, how it works.
Yeah, that's how it works.
That's exactly how business works. And it's not the first time it's been done. For example, you've got a lovely iPad in front of you right now. I've got the same one. I'll tell you honestly that I don't use my iPad. It's gathering dust. I have my laptop, I've got my smartphone. There's nothing in between. When I find I can't do something on my smartphone, I definitely don't think, where's my tablet device? I've had an Android tablet as well. Again, given that I went away. I put no value in it's like the smartwatch. Again, if I gave my smartwatch away or something happened, God forbid, to a £200 device like that, I wouldn't be thinking, where's my watch? I need my watch. Or if I could do this with my watch, now I can't do it anymore. No, I can do everything I want and better probably on my smartphone than on my watch.
I would slightly differ with you on this point. I think there is a niche, there is a market for the watch.
It's a niche, like you said, yeah.
And and technology is something not just it happens overnight. It evolves. It evolves and it gets better. And I think it's just a matter of time before we have something. Okay, the smartwatch might be a gimmick, but it's an intro to.
Let me throw you an idea. Okay, let me throw you an idea here. If Apple didn't jump onto the smartwatch bandwagon, then I'm very confident that smartwatch segment would have died out.
You think
this would have been the first stage of like, wow, check it out, it's so cool, new technology, but they would have died out.
I don't think
Google would have abandoned Android Wear because Google's known for abandoning a lot of their services.
I personally think that this would have been a category.
How many people have you seen wearing a smartwatch? Apart from me. No, nobody.
Nobody.
And I own a smartwatch, and I ain't seen anybody wear a smartwatch.
You can't really judge it on that. Obviously.
But you will start seeing people wearing smartwatch as soon as Apple releases their one. That's when it will become mainstream popular because of the kind of mind share they're calling it now that Apple kind of commands in the consumer world out there. So, yes, Apple has that influence that when like tablet, for example, a tablet device or even a smartwatch, that's when the rest of the world will start reporting about it. You'll hear stories about it in the BBC. You'll hear stories about it in the Financial Times. All these people that don't normally bother with following tech news in a very serious kind of way, they haven't bothered to talk about Moto 360, for example. It is in there in some of the back columns, but yeah, it's already old news. Same with Apple Pay. That's something that will be featuring on Apple's smartwatch. You get to pay for things at the gas station, as the Americans say.
They had a string of problems already.
They've had a string of problems already. It's true. It's new technology. They do have problems with new technology. I won't knock them for that. I will knock them for pretending that they are flawless and it just works. That I will knock them for, because it's not true. They've had issues. But again, Apple Pay has come about 2 to 3 years after Google had its version of Apple Pay called Google Wallet. And it's been on, at least in America anyway, because they haven't rolled it out in the UK. In America, you could just pay for it for some petrol or, something at the supermarket with just your smartphone. And some people have been doing that, but it hadn't taken off. And businesses who have to install this piece of hardware, a new terminal for you to use your NFC chip in your phone to swipe with your phone and just pay for it. A lot of businesses were not warm to that idea because, well, what's Google? I'll wait for Apple to do it. That's basically the attitude. If Apple does it, there's loads of customers got Apple phones.
I think that's dying out. I mean, again, that's another point I would disagree with you. I think
it's on the decline.
I think Apple's have
had its day.
They had its day, and unless they come up with the new, I don't know, eye shower or I don't know, eye gardening. I mean, eye Hoover. I don't know. I mean,
Dyson's already got that area covered.
Yeah, they've painted it a lot, haven't they?
That's right. Yeah. So,
oh God, they can't even go nowhere near.
So they will be clever. They will capitalize. Apple is not known for letting these kinds of things, lucrative things, just like. Well, and an excellent example of that is the iPhone 6 Plus and the iPhone 6. They first laughed and made fun of anything larger than 3.5 inches.
Apple did make a point of it. They
even had a commercial
regarding
that's
it.
Right. Then they went to 4 inches, which I thought, okay, it's a kind of a what's the word I'm looking for? Stealthy admission that their screens are a little bit small, but 3.5 inch to a 4 inch is not a huge leap. Come 2014, they went from 4 inch to 5.5 inch. Okay, and it's a ginormous phone.
Apple is following suit now.
Yeah, Apple will definitely will cash in on this. And now, because Apple's made an iPhone 6 Plus, a giant phone, the whole concept of giant phones now, it's a normality. Nobody's laughing at you anymore. Say for example, members of my family had the Galaxy Note 2. My close friend had the Galaxy Note 1 from day one. The first phone that was that invented this category, the phablet or the giant phone category, when all phones were trying to get smaller and thinner at that time. So people did laugh. It does change when Apple does things different. And I suppose it's a good thing still. It shouldn't have to be that way, but it's great. If Apple does it, then, people will find this kind of technology a lot more acceptable. We talked a lot about Moto 360. That was a general overview and review of the Moto 360. I've had it for roughly a month now. I genuinely love it. It's not something that you need, but it's something that if you're a tech guy and you love watches, you will be silly if you do not buy this. Even if you don't like tech, but you just love watches, and a lot of people just collect watches, you need to go ahead and get the Moto 360. Does it justify £200? Certainly not. It's too expensive, but all the other guys are only £50 or something cheaper. Some are even more expensive, like the Samsung models are more expensive than the Moto 360, and the Apple Watch will be even more expensive than that. So that should be the rough description of what the Moto 360 is. If you do get it, guys, drop us a text or a tweet to let us know. Send us a picture in and let us know what strap that you're using, what color your Moto 360 is. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, Tech Talk will be doing this show on a weekly basis. We'll be covering different trending news topics from the entire week. So by all means, let us know what you think. There's one thing I've got to say, Mr. Producer. Once you get into this watch face extravaganza, I'm telling you, you can get addicted to all the different I'm telling you, there's some really nice watch faces out there, really classy designs, and then there's some retro designs, and there's some sci-fi designs. The App Store is full of this stuff, and it's going to be really awesome. Once you start playing with it, it can get addictive, and there is a danger that some of these watch faces cost money. So watch your wallet. Don't get addicted like me. Don't be overspending on these watch faces. I've got about 60 or 50 different watch faces, and then there's the custom watch face maker where you can actually customize and make your own watch face. So you can design it. You can have your own picture as your background. You can even use a GIF or GIF, a moving image, basically, as a background of your watch face. The possibilities are like kind of enormous.
Endless, really.
Yeah, endless with the Moto 360. Wearable tech in general, we were going to talk about that. What else do you know of, Mr. Producer? Before we close tonight's show, we'll just make some honourable mentions out there.
We've got the Google Specs.
Google Specs, you mean spectacles? The Google Glass, they're calling it. That's a trademark name.
Yes. I mean, that's something that I'm actually quite looking forward to. I mean, the betas have come out every now and again. There are people that have reviewed it, and I'm liking it. I'm really liking it.
I'm going to have to differ with you there, Mr. Rizza. I am not a fan of Google Glass. I absolutely don't like it.
I think what it is. I think the same with the Moto 360.
Wearing a watch for a man who doesn't wear a watch is a compromise that I can live with. Wearing glasses I don't wear glasses. Okay,
I wear glasses for
that is asking a bit too much.
I mean, the sun affects my eyes quite a bit when I'm driving, and I wear a cheap pair of glasses, and it does the job.
You should have just called it Google goggles or something like that. Then, goggle eyes.
I think with the Google Specs, I think. Same with the Moto 360, you got different faces, you got different kind of design to it. I think once you have different shapes and sizes to the Google.
Yeah, I think the current iteration, the current model, it looks a little bit odd.
It looks too clinical. It looks something that you would wear in a laboratory trying to.
That's right.
Trying to examine.
It's not consumer friendly. It's not your everyman's piece of tech.
I think once they work on the design, I think once those big round glasses come into effect, and I think that's something that I may be.
Yeah, I think if they can integrate it into the existing design language that you find in regular spectacles, then I think it will be an easier sell. The way the Moto 360 does that with its a smartwatch design language, very much similar to the existing watches out there. So, but on top of that, I'm also a bit worried about Google Glass, not just because of design. I also think it's quite invasive. I mean, it's not very privacy friendly because it's got a camera fitted there and it's always on, as far as I know. Or you can actually set it to start recording and nobody would know that you're recording.
I think with that, I mean, you won't really have it on unless you're using it. I mean, it's not like your Moto 360 where you have it on your wrist and it's continuously it's there on your wrist 24 hours a day. When you're on a journey, for example, you'd wear it. When you're out in the sun and when you're going,
you take it out of your pocket and put it on.
Yeah, and then it's that functionality that you have. That, for example, if you are on a cycle or if you are in your car and you want that kind of direction element to it, it's there because you're using it, because it's something.
It's been banned in some states in America for while driving. Yes, it has 1 or 2 states. Some people have been given fines for wearing Google Glass while driving because it can still be distracting. I'm not too sure. I've never seen this thing in real life, but just think about that. You have to charge your phone, you have to charge your watch, and now you've got another device which will cost similar. I mean, how much does the Google Glass cost? I heard last that it was roughly £1,000. £1,000.
It's still in its first phases, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the first of its kind. I give them that much. Yeah. So
as the technology gets better,
and Google's not really trying to sell it to the average consumer.
No.
They're still in the testing phases. So I reckon the prices will come down. But seriously, I do not like the idea of putting a camera on everybody's face and record anything and everything that they are looking at. I'm not happy with that. And especially in this era and age, after the leaks from Assange, WikiLeaks, and Snowden. I reckon that it can be used for maybe recording, incidents that take place, say a police incident that you should have recorded or been a witness. But other than that, it has huge potential for abuse, and I'm not really a huge fan of this. I mean, what they'll do is they'll give us Google Glass, and then they'll give everybody else something a little bit more. Like, for example, when you go into, I don't know, the police will be wearing it. They will be recording you at every step that they take.
But they do that already. I mean,
they're doing that already, but they do it legally now. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, they will make it socially acceptable. Once you and I have got it on our face, they're going to say, "Well, what's wrong with me doing the same with you?" All right, so they'll be raiding people's homes, throwing them out of their bed in situations of undress, maybe, and they'll be recording all of that. They'll be up and down, little parks. There'll be children there. They'll be recording. There'll be zero privacy left once this becomes a norm. That's a whole different kettle of fish, and maybe we should talk about Google Glass on another day. There is one other item that I thought about, and that is the VR. Virtual reality tech that they is making a resurgence or re-emergence, okay? And Samsung's got one, and there's one called the Oculus Rift. It's got some praise. There are some negatives, okay? It's basically a huge headset that you have to wear, and you look like you're wearing giant divers goggles. It is not a pleasant thing to look at, but you put it on your face and you can get this kind of 360 kind of vision, and you can play games and do different things with it. So the Oculus Rift is a new kind of thing that's coming back into popularity, and of course even Samsung has announced that it is doing a very similar virtual reality headset. They're calling it the Samsung Gear VR. Okay, they're calling it the Samsung Gear VR. We'll talk about those maybe on another day.
They look like, if there's any Star Trekky fans out there, that just looks something from one of the Star Trek generation, the Borgs, where they walk around with those goggles and there's lasers coming sticking out kind of thing, and all information feeds back to Mother Station.
So definitely it looks very sci-fi. It doesn't look attractive. It's not as streamlined as the kind of Star Trek references that you've made. It's worse than the piece of gear that Cyclops wears out of X-Men. It's definitely very ugly looking right now. It's quite big and heavy, but it's the first of its kind to have been announced. Oculus Rift and Samsung Gear VR. We'll be talking to you about that maybe sometime next week, inshallah, or in the future programs that we do. So you've been listening to Tech Talk on Middle Path Radio. We'll be going off air. Unless you've had any questions, I'm going to quickly give out our mobile phone number. It's 07477 080 248. Save that, please. Go check out our YouTube channel on Middle Path Radio, and also subscribe to Celtech. As this program has been brought to you by Celtech, the tech YouTube channel. Go subscribe to both of those. Follow us on Twitter at Middle Path Radio. That's at Middle Path Radio. We'll be hearing from you next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.